Welcome back to the late night review, and tonight I want to talk about a movie that I like. I think it's a solid installment in the Psycho franchise with Anthony Perkins. I'm talking about Psycho 4. Psycho 4, I think, is a good movie. And just a reminder before I get into the movie, I do all this work by myself. I do all the videos alone. I work alone. I do the intros, the outros, everything in the middle. And I'm working hard, so I really appreciate it if you like and subscribe and watch these videos and then share them with other people so they can see this type of content and enjoy the videos. It makes it seem more like my hard work is paying off. It definitely does. It doesn't seem that way, but it makes it. So I really, really appreciate that. And this movie is a movie that I think it's a solid installment in the Psycho franchise. I think I've said it before if you've seen my other Psycho reviews, because I did talk about Psycho 2 and 3, and those are my favorites of the Psycho franchise. Psycho 2 and 3 with Anthony Perkins. I like part 4. Obviously, I like part 1. 2 and 3 are my favorite. Psycho 4 is a solid addition to the franchise. It talks about the backstory. There's a radio talk show that talks about boys who killed their mothers, and Anthony Perkins calls into this show as kind of a private caller with a different name, a fake name. I think he calls himself Ed, and he gives his insight, and it's a fascinating movie. And it shows the story, the backstory. He explains what things were like when he was a kid between him and his mother, played by Olivia Hussey. I mean, what an actress. I've seen her in plenty of other films, and she does a good job in here to me. I think she's pretty believable. Henry Thomas plays young Norman Bates. I think it's Henry Thomas. He was in E.T. and multiple other projects. He was in a movie called, really good movie that I wish it was on YouTube. I wish you can watch it on YouTube. It's called Murder One with Henry Thomas, and it's based on a true story. That was a disturbing movie. But anyway, Henry Thomas does a decent job in here. I always thought Colin Farrell could have played a young Norman Bates when Colin Farrell was younger, because he looks a lot like Anthony Perkins, a young Anthony Perkins to me. I've said that before in other videos. This is a good movie, Psycho 4. I think that the only critique I have about it is, yes, Anthony Perkins is in here, but not a lot. Not like 1, 2, and 3. It is a good movie, but Perkins is in here, called the radio talk show. He does play a pretty big role in here, but he doesn't have a lot of on-screen time, and I wish he did. So that's one of my only critiques about this movie. Other than that, I think it's a solid addition to the Psycho franchise. Like I said, 2 and 3 are my favorites because Anthony Perkins is the center of attention, like he was pretty much in part one, but especially two and three. I think part two is probably the most well done and the best one in the whole franchise, but I'm probably the most entertained by part three. But two and three are my favorites. Part four it's an interesting look into his past and what made him a killer. And a lot of people say, is it nurture or is it nature? I've always believed that it's both. I think that bad parents make bad kids more bad, and good parents make good kids more good, and good parents make bad kids not as bad. Nurture is a huge part of it, but I also think nature too. Like with Ted Bundy, I think he was probably born with a dark side, and maybe certain things that he witnessed as a child and certain things that he saw influenced him to go darker and darker and darker. But I think it was his aunt, when Ted Bundy was getting off topic a little bit, but I just thought about nurture or nature. The point of this Psycho 4 is what makes a boy kill his mother, and that's what the talk show host is about. So they do go into nurture, nature. Is it nurture or nature? And with Bundy, I think he was probably born with a dark side and got worse because I think it was his aunt or a female relative. She fell asleep on the bed one night, and Bundy was like 5 years old. I think maybe 5 or 6. And what he did is he took all the knives from the kitchen drawer and put them in a circle around her body as she slept, with all the points pointed towards her body. When she woke up, she saw it. So, that's a sign right there. I think it's both. With his case, I think he was probably born with a dark side and it got worse by some of the stuff he saw. But anyway, back to the movie. Psycho 4 is well done. I think it's a good movie. It's got good acting. It's put together well. And its production value, I think, is good. It's well edited. I think that everybody in here does a good acting job for the roles that they're given. There's a couple scenes in here that are very disturbing and irritating, and then how his mother and then her boyfriend acts, and then eventually a young Norman Bates poisons them, kills them. And then at the end, there's a climactic scene where Anthony Perkins is kind of waiting for his wife to get home. His wife is pregnant, and Anthony Perkins doesn't know if he passed on his dark side to his child, his unborn child. And there's a big climactic scene at the end. And this movie's been out for a while. Most of my reviews are spoiler reviews because I do talk about movies that have been out for a while. But I'll just kind of leave it at that. There's a climactic scene at the end. I won't tell you all the details, but it's been out for a while. Most people have probably seen it, especially if they're into the Psycho franchise. But I think it's a good addition to the franchise. I do. I think it's suspenseful. I think it does a good job at building the tension, and it shows Norman Bates' history. And it's a good follow-up. It's a good way to end. I think it's a decent way to end the franchise. Part 4 is solid enough where you can end this franchise on that. And that's what they did in terms of the 4 movies that Anthony Perkins was in. And to me, Anthony Perkins will always be the best Norman Bates. I think he did a great job. And but part 2 and 3 are my favorites. But part 4 is a good one. And if you haven't seen it, I think you're in for a treat. If you like these types of movies, and if you've seen the other ones and you like them, I think you'll probably like this one. I like 2 and 3 better, but this is a solid movie, Psycho 4. So check it out. I highly recommend it. This has been the Late Night Review. Thanks for watching, and have a good night, everybody.